Anyone interested in the field of economics will invariably ask, how do economies work? The answer to this question is telling in that it will influence how the student learns. Will the student be encouraged to learn about all of the constituent parts of an economy in hopes of gaining a better understanding? Or will the student be offered something that is perhaps more targeted? Up until now, the answer seems to be that to understand how an economy works, one must understand all moving parts. This approach, it is felt, needs to be reconsidered. Hi, my name's John Worm, and it will be the purpose here to suggest an approach to this question that will not only show how an economy works, but will show an approach that promises to make the learning process more meaningful and perhaps more satisfying. So let's get started. To the question, how do economies work, we'll start with a thought experiment. Let's say we had to explain to a person that lived 200 or 300 years ago how a gas-powered automobile works. Where would you begin? We might point out where to sit and which pedal to push. But does that really explain how the automobile works? You may be showing that person how to operate the vehicle, but you're not explaining how it works. Unless you're referencing the pistons and the crankshaft, you're not establishing the principle of motion. When the student poses the question of how an economy works, the assumption must be that the person is actually trying to understand what is the core principle specific to economics that allows an economy to perform the way it does. The student is not asking for a description of all moving parts. When someone says, how do economies work, they're more likely intending to ask, what makes an economy work? And so that's the question that will be addressed here. Consider this. In any economy, there are basically two types of actors that propel all activity: the household and the business firm. And both have wants and needs. For the household, it's food, clothing, and shelter. For the business firm, it's the ability to make a profit. These two financial actors are locked into a type of symbiotic relationship where they are dependent upon one another for survival. And it is here where the core principle of an economy is to be discovered. Just as the downward motion of the pistons in the internal combustion engine turns the crankshaft into rotary motion and propels an automobile forward, consumer demand for goods and services engages the business community and propels an economy. Consumer demand is the catalyst that makes an economy works. Without an adequate consumer demand, both households and business firms lose. For those interested in economics as a profession, designing policies that ensure for a measured amount of consumer demand is the task. A measured amount of consumer demand is necessary in that with too much demand, accelerating inflation becomes possible, and with too little demand, full employment, which is one of the objectives of any economy, becomes less likely. The duality of accelerating inflation and full employment is an area of study within the profession that is of high importance and will be the subject of subsequent videos. Consumer demand is the essential component to making sense of how an economy works. It not only gives the prospective economists a focus on which to operate, it gives voters who understand its potential a better chance of making an informed decision. If we are to become a more enlightened electorate and ensure our own collective well-being, we all must have a better understanding of what makes an economy work, and in turn, learn better how to manage it.